Welcome back to the Krown crypto channel, wishing you a happy daily start to this nice Friday morning over here as we prepare to wrap up this week, a big week actually that can have major implications for the next few weeks to come. So we're going over a few things that are on that particular topic, and then obviously follow up on the setups from yesterday and some new setups emerging in the short term here as the 2-hour one is actually fully played out. That 29,800-ish region has already been hit, but there are a few things still active as well. Other than that, I want to once again give the spotlight to the buyback promotion going on as I got 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders, and you can even get the Jewel Light for free for the first 30 days if you follow the directions in the link in the description below. And if you are concerned about KYC on Bybit or any exchange for that matter, they do have a decentralized exchange arm called Apex. I have a link in the description below as well, which will award you 5% discount on your fees for the lifetime. For the lifetime. Anyways, now that we've gotten through that little shill session, let's start off right in over here. And first things first, I want to start off with potentially the biggest thing that could be happening the soonest, meaning the weekly close for today for CME, which will have a chance potentially that is, to potentially actually have a bit of a bullish engulfing if Bitcoin can close above last week's high. Still got some ways to go. Obviously, that's 30,600. So as of right now, it is about $1,000 below that pivot. So not super relevant as of the current moment in time, but if Bitcoin were to close above there, then yes, we would have a weekly bullish engulfing dildo right there, and very likely that would lead into a breakout for early May for new highs on this rally. On top of that, if Bitcoin were to close above last week's high, it would likely also simultaneously close above the top side of the Gaussian channel, which anytime that we've seen that in the past after Bitcoin has the Gaussian channel's turned red, which on this chart isn't too many times because we don't have the full history like this chart over here. But when that's happened in the past, that has led to a pretty sizable rally, actually. A pretty sizable rally in the short term, followed by a pretty sharp crash in sort of the medium term. So what I'm talking about is this right here. Break above, boom, big move, and then comes back down, tests the top side of it. Same thing over here, boom, breaks above, comes back down, tests the top side of it, and same thing over here, and so on and so forth. And you get the idea. Anyways, going back to CME, that one's closing tonight, and then you have a spot to follow through on Sunday. So either tonight or Sunday, if you see Bitcoin basically closing above, especially $31,000, but even last week's high at 30,600, then that very likely leads into a major extension of this rally into I guess May. Also do keep in mind that if we throw on our drawing tools right here, we do have, if I move this box up, we do have a nice little gapola on the CME, on CME from last year, May of last year, so literally about 1 year ago, coming in from the breakdown from like 34,500 to 36,000 bucks right here. So that would be an obvious area of interest if Bitcoin were to break out again above the top side of the Gaussian channel or just closing above last week's high. One of those two things would very likely do it for me. And then yeah, probably sometime in May, looking somewhere around here. Until then, still consolidation within this overall region. Anyways, moving on now. Do we want to go over the 2-hour setup that we went over yesterday? Sure, I guess. Wrong one, but there we go. I think it was this one, or it was one of these ones. That one's already hit. We were looking at an area of interest at about 29,800 based upon that. Obviously, Bitcoin did hit that on the rally yesterday or this morning, I guess, depending upon your time frame. But there are now a few more setups emerging. So first and foremost, let's see, how do I want to start this? Yeah, first and foremost, let's start off with the daily. So the daily was also in the process of putting in a setup right here on the daily Jewel, which again, this setup, very, 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 very simple right here. Just looking for the daily Jewel to come down below the 35 read and then turn white, plus a few other criteria alongside the PMERP levels, which were obviously met. And so that did initiate a setup as of the 26/27th of this month of April. So this one is getting is still active, it's still viable, and more importantly, on tonight's closure, it will have a chance to actually fully and formally close as that light blue cyan color right here, which would be sort of like the next extension or the next sort of piece of the puzzle, saying that hey, this setup is likely to follow through. So that will be confirmed potentially as soon as tonight upon the daily closure. Basically, with any sort of a closure, here or higher will do it. If and when that does happen, then we can go ahead and reference these statistics over here. Again, 86.5% probability almost of of a nice upside move over 37 tested iterations. And if we go into the performance summary, we can see that the average winning trade was actually 11%. So this is where the prior chart that we're looking at over here on the weekly starts to come into collusion with this one over here, because from that setup given, if we were to add like 10 to 11%, where would that put Bitcoin? Well, 10% puts you, already at like $31,000, and 11% puts you at about 31,500-ish region. So obviously, if that plays out, then we'd very likely see this condition over here confirmed as well, or at least potentially in this next 3-day spread before at least Sunday, at latest Sunday. So if you see that do play out, then that would be a good signal that Bitcoin continues further on from these regions. Again, going back into the strategy tester over here, the average trade from this particular setup did take about 20 bars, and this is a daily, so that would be 20 days. Again, firing off a few days ago on the 26th, so that would be like 3 weeks from, Monday or Tuesday, something like that. So basically like the second week of May is where that'd be kind of likely. Now, personally speaking, I do think that if this particular one's gonna work out, we probably see it happen sooner rather than later. My personal opinion would be in this next week spread, if we're gonna see it happen at all. Anyways, so far so good right there. But I did want to actually offer up a bit of a nuanced perspective of this. So that is relevant, obviously, for the higher term timeframes. If we go down to the 4-hour timeframe, there is actually a setup here as well for the downside. So before you judge, let me kind of get through this explanation, because this could play hand in hand with a few other things as well. But I do want to accurately represent these statistics as best to my ability. That's the purpose of this channel. So I do think it's important to be aware of this. So if we throw on strategy number 16 right here, this is not loading, so that's great. Let me just pull up to a different chart. There we go. That's the trick with these damn things. And we'll throw on the HPDR indicator as well. So as you can see, there's been several closures above the blue range highs right here. And when that condition happens, it initiates the secondary condition where we look for a decline in the volatility represented by the moving average of the BBWP indicator. So again, closing above the returns range highs plus contraction and volatility, which actually happened a little bit above $29,000 officially as of yesterday. So with that particular setup, there is actually a slightly higher probability of a relatively short-term downside move. In this case, 66% probability over 100 tested iterations over the past few years did have a downside move. Now, I will say that these stats in general are actually not that impressive, in general for this one. But the equity curve does, move up and to the right. So, again, I do think that it's important to be aware of this. So first and foremost, if this does play out, what essentially would be the areas of interest? Well, to the downside, if this one works out, the average move is about 4% or a little bit above 4%. To the upside, a little bit more than that, actually, to the in the case of failure. So if we do see it play out to the downside, where essentially would we be looking towards? We'd be looking back down towards about, mid to upper $27,000 territory, somewhere between like 27.5 to 27.8 or so. But here's the thing. I do think that this is one of the ones that has a strong potential to fail, And if it does, we can take that average of the average losing moves and see where that would put Bitcoin. And what do you know? 5% would put Bitcoin at 30,400. Oh, that's a very interesting number now, isn't it? Because that would put Bitcoin just around the last weekly high, thus giving it a chance to have a bullish engulfing dildo right there on the weekly. So if it does fail, I do think that the failure conditions are just as important as the success conditions on this particular one. And if that does play out, that would play hand in hand with the other two timeframes the other few charts that we've been looking at. So again, theoretically speaking, or not theoretically, but in terms of mathematics, it does have a higher probability to move to the downside. And for what it's worth, the last 4 trades using this were failures, actually. So, you could take the other side of that and say, hey, that means the next one's probably going to be more likely. What's the likelihood of having 4 failures in a row if the hit rate is like 66%? Hey, good, that's a personal call, obviously. But yeah, you can see the relevancy going both ways there, obviously. So moving into the next chart here, I did want to follow up on, where is my damn chart? Oh, here it is. There we go. I also wanted to follow up on the 2-day time frame chart that we were looking at yesterday as potential hidden bullish divergence. That did get confirmed upon last night's closure, or was it the night before that? Well, either which way, yesterday we have it right there. And again, this is coming seemingly on the backs of a higher low, while volatility is kind of contracting into that. So I do look at that as, again, first and foremost bullish. I think we see the same thing on the 3-day time frame here as well. So ultimately, what does that mean? It means it's very difficult for me on the higher term timeframes to be bearish as long as Bitcoin's at minimum above like $27,000, and if you want to go by the book, 26.5. That's still kind of my disposition here. It's like, is there potential massive downside? Yeah, but I only look at it as relevant to talk about. If Bitcoin starts to get below those regions, then yeah, I could be looking at low 20,000s, like 20,000 to 21,000 bucks. But according to the other higher term timeframes, upside is still more likely here, or just more pro to be talking about, as Bitcoin's a lot closer to that 30,500 pivot rather than 26,600 or 26,500, depending upon how granular you want to get with that one. Anyways, moving on to the last charts here, let's reference stochastic momentum, which I actually did not bring up. So un momento, as I've been awared by our Italian compatriots, is the proper way to be saying that. Now, god damn it, pressed the wrong damn one. Done did it again. Done fucking goofed. All right, sweet. There we go. And let's start off over here with the daily. So the daily had a chance to cross the upside yesterday. Let's see if it did. I believe it did, because obviously, it closed above 27,000 and change. And yes, it will be remaining with upside momentum as long as Bitcoin is now closing the dailies above 27,250 or so. 12-hour time frame also going to be having upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 27,650. 6-hour time frame also going to be showing upside momentum, it looks like. Yeah, as long as Bitcoin's above 29,000 bucks, so getting a little bit closer to current price action. 4-hour time frame showing upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 29.2. It is starting to get in the critical zone here, so short term-ish relative to the other time frames. We're probably going to see a bit of a consolidation. And then the hourly is actually down right now, and actually nosediving right there as long as Bitcoin's below 29,900. So what does that align with? Very, very short term, probably a bit of consolidation sideways and down. And then, if the downside really takes over, maybe we see the 4-hour setup over here play out, which would, again, be somewhere down like 27.6 to 27. What exactly is it? Like 27.6 to 27.8 region is where I'd be looking for if that one does play out. But even on the short-term timeframes, it's not really relevant as far as I'm concerned, as long as Bitcoin's above, especially 29. Yeah, especially 29,000 bucks. So yeah, fair enough. We can see how all those things kind of play together once again. I think it's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. The real question is, where does Bitcoin kind of end the weekly? This is the big one for me. Does Bitcoin end it as an engulfing? If it does, it's going to be, it's probably going to be a pretty damn bullish early May. Very likely new highs on this rally, or extremely likely new highs on this rally. And if it doesn't, then we get to play the game again next week. So nothing really, gets taken away from there. I still remain overall upside bias as long as Bitcoin is above the 26.6 pivot. Very, very important one there. Below there is where you're going to start to see me turn pretty damn bearish with targets down to 21 to 20,000 bucks, actually. So yeah, that's a good place for me to be leaving off yet again. I want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.